I've been saying for 6 months now, hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map.
And Merry Christmas, everybody. Welcome to News from the Pew, where we take news from around the interwebs and distill it to make it slightly less frightening. I'm Rick Barrett, and I'm joined this holiday season from the great state of Kentucky, Fawaz Yazi, and from the state of the Carolinas, Mr. Stephen Cunningham. We hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and are enjoying a wonderful Christmas tide. And we got some stories to kind of clean up the end of the year, maybe time kind of look forward to next year, see predictions and so forth, and to give you a little bit of content and something to talk about on this seemingly wasteland between Christmas and New Year's, where pretty much everybody goes on vacation and everything goes to die. But that's okay, because there is still stuff to talk about. And the first one is that Nikki Haley is the gift that keeps on giving for multiple reasons. And she's actually going to get a positive boost on this show. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, why don't you take a watch?
The cause of the United States Civil War.
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president. I wanted to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties, so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And then in the year 2023, it's astonishingly deep, and you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
You answered my question.
It's bad, okay?
Next question.
Well, I mean, she may want to blow everything off the map, very much like Lindsey Graham, but probably the most honest answer you're going to get out of it. Now, do we have the one where she followed up, Steve, in New Hampshire, the second day?
I missed that one.
I'll find it for you. But somebody else came at her and asked her a bunch of questions about it, and she was just like, But while you're thinking about, while I'm looking it up, Fawaz, your reaction to Nikki Haley actually having a moment of clarity, supposedly.
Yeah, but it good to be with you guys again. Merry Christmas, everyone. It doesn't fit the narrative, unfortunately, with those who are controlled by what we call MK Ultra. I know we're gonna get kicked out for saying those buzzwords. There's certain things that we learn in history that we have known later on to be false, and like Abe Lincoln was a great president, and all these things that I think Steve and Rick, you guys do a good job. You guys know a lot more about American history than I do.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm just not interested in it. But you guys,
that California blood of his.
It is. It's that California to me. I'm more interested in Junipero. But no, I think she's correct. Again, I was educated in public school and thought everyone was taught that it was due to slavery, and then later on in life, actually more recently, I realized that due to you guys and some folks on Twitter that it's more complicated. It's more complicated than that, and of course, no matter what she had said, it's almost like they would have trapped her in a certain way. It's kind of funny because the person asked her a follow-up question, and her response is, "What do you want me to say about slavery?" It's almost like the person who asked the question was a donor, one of those big, billionaire donors. She's saying like, "What should I say next? Like, what do you want me to say?"
It's almost like a please clap moment.
Yeah, exactly. The Jeb Bush please clap moment. She is, I don't want to go back to we talked about in the green room. I think there's a video of Vivek. He was asked by a voter who he thinks the Democratic nominee is going to be, if not Joe Biden, if the great switcheroo is going to occur. And Vivek very secretly, I guess in the dark in a way, said they're not trying to get rid of Trump in the general. They're trying to get rid of him in the primary. And it's not the Democrat Party. That's it. That's the one.
That they're not going to. They're going to take Biden out. It's not going to be Newsom.
Oh, this is a longer story. It takes a dark turn, but I think it's. I have a good sense of what's going to happen here.
Okay.
They're leading into a trap. They're not going to let Trump get anywhere near the White House. They're not going to let him.
What about?
So the goal is, have him be the nominee, and by hell or high water, one way or another, they're not going to have him. They're not going to let him.
What about the other two though?
It's not them.
Who is it?
It's within our own party.
Okay. It's within our own party.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Hey, look at the people who voted to keep Trump off the ballot. Who are they putting up? Who are lawsuits to keep him off the ballot? Larry Fink to Reid Hoffman. Who are they propping up? So it's a game. And I'm in this to make sure that doesn't happen. They want it to be a two-horse race, eliminate him, put up actually the Trojan horse within the Republican Party that keeps the war machine humming and keeps the restrictions on speech and the censorship agenda. Get it done. Who needs Democrats when you can get it done through the Republican Party?
Okay.
So you do the math.
Okay.
You do the math on that. That's what's coming.
Hey, thanks again for taking
Think
my
about it.
question.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
And I
Thank
That
you.
was actually a very brilliant observation because we've seen that. I mean, they try to pop up DeSantis, and listen, I honestly don't think DeSantis really wanted to go against Trump. I think
No,
I think internally, like he probably was struggling with that, but he got a lot of these people in his ear that kind of say, "Hey, listen, he's going to get indicted. He's going, he's not going to be able to run. We're going to go this way. You're the next person." When I think that all that stuff had happened with him, and he started dipping in the polls, maybe he just wasn't, war hungry enough for them. But Nikki Haley seems to be, and I honestly think that Vivek is talking about Haley mainly because every chance he gets to go after her up on stage in the debates, he does. He goes after her and goes after Christie. It's almost like I would not put it past Trump to put Vivek in to kind of cause this chaos within the primaries to keep what's her name off. But she does a pretty good job herself. A broken clock can be right twice a day. She said the right thing at the right time. She's getting crucified for it, unfortunately. It's like she gets applauded by the media, by the leftists for saying the wrong thing, and then she gets crucified for saying the right thing. But that goes to show you what the two agendas are. Other than that, I don't know what to think about it. I think she'd be a horrible president. I think she would just be a Bush 2.0 and continue with the status quo. And like Steve would probably say, it's just a theater that we're just spectators at this point.
Yeah, we found the second video. If you want to take a listen to that, folks, this is her defending that previous comment.
I guess if you grow up in the South, it's a given that it's about slavery. To me, it was about freedom. What do you do? It's bigger than slavery. That was such a stain on our history. But what do you take from it going forward? Yes, of course, slavery can never happen again. But going forward, doesn't that mean we should focus on the freedoms of people to live their life, not to have government, not to have any other person tell them what they can and can't do? That's been trampled on the past few years. That's the part we've got to make sure we never take anything away from. So look, you guys can make it about something else, but if you look at my record in South Carolina, we dealt with this a whole lot more than we did. And what I'll tell you is, yes, you can acknowledge a point in history, but what do you do with that point in history? You got to make sure the lessons constantly go forward so that we never see it again.
Yeah, Steve. So, kind of mumbled through it, but it's at least an answer defending what she said.
Yeah, which is funny that she's getting just sacked online. She was the one that took down the flag from the State House, and really nobody knew. Really, nobody knew it was even up there. And then she made this big stink about it and made the memorial on the grounds, beautiful memorial they got there in Columbia. But then they wanted to try to get rid of that too. And she was trying to get everything put in the museum and get rid of the, as she said, try to move forward. She's trying to get rid of the past. They just got rid of Arlington Monument, and they were trying to target another one. I can't remember where. It's kind of like the French Revolution in a sense, where everyone tries to get rid of your past. But yeah, winners write history. So yeah, the quote unquote North won, basically from total warfare that they did down in the South, and then making it politicized and all that. Was yeah, slavery was slavery was still in existence in the North after the war was over. It was Delaware didn't stop for about 2 years afterwards. So slavery
Maryland
was not outlawed in the North after the Emancipation Proclamation, which I love the South Park line. I don't listen to hip hop. If you ever remember that from the movie. The whole thing was about Western expansion, as they said. They wanted to dilute the idea of it because, as yes, everyone brings up Alexander Stephens, the vice president, and he was a big slavery guy. But everyone used, hey, look, Stephens said this, so that means everybody. Lee, all those guys saw it as a thing that was dying naturally, as it did everywhere else on the planet at that time. Hence, the church, I think, had right. It's in that book. If you get the book by Patrick Madrid, Pope Fiction, he has a chapter on this. I want to say 8 or 9 documents from the church has been written on the issue of slavery, which obviously still goes on today. You have a smartphone probably made by slave labor. You got a Chinese thing. It's probably made by slave labor from China. You want an EV car? Some 4-year-old probably put together is under slavery, put the battery, dug the battery up and the material for the battery and all that stuff. And so, yeah, it still goes on. No one likes to talk about it, especially in these United States. No one wants to talk about the Muslims taking people from Baltimore, Ireland, and bringing them down. The Barbary pirates, what do you think they were? They were Muslims. And so the slave trade obviously was a big profitable thing in the North. And when it was not profitable anymore, they ended up finding miraculously found some moral superiority in there, which obviously they didn't have because they did not want. Their problem with the expansion was they didn't want black people living with them. So you can say anything you want. All these Southerners were a bunch of Hayseeds that didn't like black people. As you read Alexis de Tocqueville, he quotes, he lived at that time. The races lived in, quote, harmony with each other, just that the law's government was not on their side. Up north, segregated beyond belief, and they didn't want anybody living with them. And they didn't want that to be expanded into the West, hence that. Now, yes, the South wanted slave states so that they could have at least a representative in the general government. That was it. Again, they were talking about it not being around for a while. You don't go to war. All those people did not die because of slavery, because no one dies to own another person, one. And two, you had to have a lot of money. If you read the Politically Incorrect Guide to the South and the Civil War, they go through how much money it costs to have a slave in your house. If you ever want to laugh about it, there's a satirist movie called The Confederate States of America, which is done by a black man. if for all things, and it's kind of hysterical how the guy did it. But yeah, you didn't have not everybody owned them. The richest had more than one. It was like back in the day. If you remember the movie Back to the Future, and Marty says, we have two of those TVs, and the kid. His little dad or whatever says, or his uncle, or you guys must be rich because it cost a lot of money for one back in those days. Same idea. It cost a lot of money for one. And if you had two or more, it cost a bucos a lot of money. And you didn't mistreat them because you had to have them, one, work, and two, the laws were taken care of. You're in the South, you were supposed to take care of them and all this. And also, it made you look as it was a bad reflection on the owner. Say like you were buying a car and you looked at the Carfax and you see that the last owner's mistreated, did this and that. You weren't going to buy that car from that person. In the same mindset back then, if you looked at somebody and this guy mistreats his property, as they called him, then you didn't get it. No one would put the money into it because there was something damaged from the owner, not the person itself. But I mean, obviously, it's weird to talk about stuff like that in these light, but you got to look at it in that light and those words. And that's what they said that time. Everyone on the planet, well, everybody in this continent was that way, like-minded. William Ellison, the richest man in South Carolina, started the Confederate money, freed black man. His sons were in the artillery. I mean, shoot, slavery was started. I mean, the way it was indentured servants, but the form that we grew up to know was started by was an African guy. I can't remember what his name was right now, Hamilton or something like this. And I mean, Beck did a show on him about 10 years ago. If it's still up there, pull it up. But yeah, I mean, but Nikki, I mean, that was an honest thing because it was government overreach. Lincoln was going to destroy he didn't like the South, and he wanted to get rid of he said he wanted to get the Negroes off the land, ship them off, to colonize other islands and things like that. You just look that up. He did not want them to coexist. Frederick Douglass was not in the room when he was doing all this stuff. You read his biography, Douglass found a way, and he actually credits the Catholics for finding a way to bringing freedom into his mind, because he said he ran into 2 Irishmen in Baltimore, and they were astonished that he was a slave, and they convinced him that he should be a freed man. And he goes out to Ireland and says, I go to a church and no one says, get out blank. I go here. By the way, he lived up north. And I go here and they don't deal me this. They don't try to lynch me. And he comes to the conclusion that, quote, his words, they were all Catholic. Different is now Catholics in Ireland were different than Catholics in the States, as we did in that the book Catholic and Confederate Catholics, that the interview I did with Gretchen a couple weeks ago, which is a very great book, and he gets into the bits and bits that happen in the South, and etc. That on a Catholic level about giving out miraculous medals and things like this, which you are never taught about in the church or in the school systems at all. But yeah, I mean, it's to say that it was just about slavery is that whole thing about overly simplifying a thing. There's way more involved in this. Virginia, for example, did not leave because of slavery. They left because as they looked on, did not think it was good for the Union to make war with another former state and go through it, as they saw it was unjust, and to go through their state to do it. They warned them, you go through our state, we're against you. And they did. That's when Lee decided to resign and take up the charge on the Virginia side. They put the new capital in Richmond, down the street from D.C. If they wanted to, thumb their nose at D.C., they wouldn't have put it so close, which D.C. ended up trying to burn down. But yeah, some states, they have it in a couple of right. I think Mississippi might have had it in right. But the mindset of the whole populace, you probably, if you could go back in time and ask somebody in the Confederates infantries, what are you fighting for? Ain't none of them going to say, the majority is not going to say, hey, I want to own a slave. No way that they fought that. It was just like in 1776 when they wanted to be out of the crown, which, by the way, those guys doing that to England was more traitorous than what they say, the traitors left. You were attached to the crown in 1776, to the king. There's no king here. It was a union, like an agreement. Hey, we're in a contract with these guys. Most people break a contract almost daily. So to call these guys traitors or anything like that is incredibly ignorant. But that's what you get told to, because your mindset is supposed to be one nation under God. That's why they got the pledge, to make you pledge to one nation and never break up, because you'd be a traitor if you did that. That was settled with the Texas thing. It's live free or die. And that's funny. That was actually the live free or die state that happened in New Hampshire. Shocking that question come up, of all places, there to me. But I thought she handled it great. It was an answer that was spot on. If you look up anybody that does actual research on this, you'll see the same thing. Government overreach. And then afterwards, obviously, the president's killing people on his own, conscripting immigrants to fight or, get kicked out or die or in prison, and jailing his detractors in the media, things like that. But hey, we got a temple now for him, and that's where you go and pray our Lincolns and hail Obamas.
Yeah, so pretty much what you can take from that is that Steve now endorses Nikki Haley for president.
I got my sticker.
Because of that one correct answer. It's totally changed his opinion on it. Haley 2024.
Here's someone asked Vivek. I wanted to hear what he has to say. I don't think Rick has heard it. And for Waz, have you heard it?
I haven't. I can tell you I haven't heard it.
I got a two-parter. I wonder if you could tell me
It's great.
what the cause
Oh, yeah.
And if we're headed to another one possibly.
That's the question of our time. Civil War is one of these things that speaks itself into existence, actually. And, you have a governor of South Carolina who doesn't know much about the history of her own state, but South Carolina actually in about 1832, it's one of the things we learned in U.S. history class in 11th grade, they actually were going to secede from the Union. We're talking nearly a couple decades before the Civil War. Right? So this comes back to the present. Our history isn't about our past. It's about our understanding of our future. So they actually, in 1832, were about to secede. Back then, it was about tariffs between the North and South. But ultimately, the thing that boiled this over was slavery. But there were tensions brewing, a value system that was fundamentally different in two countries that shared a geographic space, but a value system that was fundamentally different. That's really what led to the Civil War. So the powder keg was in the air, slavery was the match that we lit that caused it to boil over. The question you asked is, where are we today? And I don't use that word lightly. We are already, I would say, in the middle of a Cold War in this country. A war between those of us who love the United States of America and those who hate this country and what we stand for. And I called this a war today because, like the one fought 160 years ago, 80 years ago, we could say that it's an incompatible worldview. Either you believe in merit or you believe in group quotas. You cannot have both. Either you believe in free speech or you believe in censorship. You cannot have both. Either you believe in American exceptionalism or you believe in American apologism. Just as happened in that last Civil War, you cannot have both. That's the moment we live in today. And I think now more than ever, we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this Cold War so it does not turn hot. That's what we require. And I think it's going to take somebody from the outside, somebody who's not susceptible to the special interests that got us to where we are. And I believe now more than ever, somebody from the next generation to reach and lead the new generation of Americans. That's what it's going to take.
Okay. The 32 was his. Let me bring up to correct our Mr. Ramaswamy, who obviously just showed us why schools suck. Let me bring up the Abbeville Institute on the nullification crisis that happened. This is John C. Calhoun. What happened January 1833? U.S. President Andrew Jackson believed the federal laws should be respected no matter the cost. And in January 1833, he asked Congress to approve a force bill to authorize the federal government to use military force against South Carolina. I remember telling an umpire this when I was coaching a Little League game. He had a Andrew Jackson point of view. You remember? Did you know that he tried to invade it in South Carolina? He had no clue. Congress passed the bill officially authorizing the federal government to use force against a state. Violence was avoided when a compromise tariff was adopted, which lowered the tariff rates very gradually to a maximum of 20% in 1842. The South Carolina Convention revoked its nullification on the tariff, but in a final act of defiance, it nullified the force bill. In one sense, both sides could claim victory, but Calhoun was totally correct when he observed that the battle had just begun. And that was on the Battle of the Tariff of Abominations that J.C. Calhoun, who was was one of the best congressmen ever in the U.S. history, pretty much. He's hated by most people now because of most eloquent spokesman for the states' rights position. But both his criticism of the tariff and his protest against the vehicle of its enforcement employed the specific vision of the Union and the constitutional relation between the general government and the states. Nullification, which was used in Kentucky and Virginia, nullification acts that Thomas Jefferson and John Adams put together back in the day against John Adams, carved out a third position that could be aptly called the very moderate federalism. You want to read more of it? I'll put it in the show notes. But to hear Ramaswamy say, "Oh, that was about slavery,"
it's a tried and true answer. It's the easy it's the easy answer.
We thought you were smarter than that.
Well, that's all history is at this point. I mean, the three of us kind of talked about it when it came to music and all this other kind of stuff. Everything has been so boiled down. Everything has been so dumbed down. Let's just be completely honest at it. To TikTok, Twitter, Instagram answers where it just needs to be, what was this cause? Slavery. What was 9/11? Muslims. Like, blah, 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 blah. We can't accept actually in-depth arguments about anything because I don't think people actually have the intellectual capacity at this point in our history within this union to accept it. Steve, you and I have the same arguments when we try to talk to people about states' rights, whether for me it's firearms or for you it's think locally or acting locally, despite going to a place like Walmart, you actually are doing so. And so forth, where you actually can have those layered arguments. So everything you just said, 95% of the public checked out about 3 sentences in, because they just don't have the attention span to actually absorb such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're not going to hear that on mainstream news or anything like that. Just like, I guess we talk about that other story that's come up about Trump being taken off the ballots in different states. I mean,
yeah, we might as well just move into that as well.
It's almost the same argument. No one knows what the 14th is or how to quote unquote interpret it. And, but let me play the main thing.
We lay out why under Maine law, the Secretary of State has the authority, indeed the obligation, I'm duty bound to make this determination. Laid out that the record demonstrates that, in fact, the events of January 6, 2021, which were unprecedented and tragic, were an insurrection in the meaning of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And finally, in reviewing the facts presented, the evidence, the law, the history, we determined under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that Mr. Trump engaged in insurrection and therefore was disqualified.
Now, I have to say, not only is this an incredibly important decision, but it's a very brave decision.
Because we agree
the Trump
with it.
campaign has already come out attacking you. They have said that you are a virulent leftist and a hyper-partisan Biden-supporting Democrat.
First and foremost, it's important to know my oath to the Constitution, my obligations to the Constitution and rule of law come before any other consideration.
Speaking of that, she's Secretary of State for Maine, so the U.S. Constitution has nothing to do with her.
Exactly.
No other factors could weigh on that decision and did not. I'm duty bound to both hold a hearing and make a ruling.
To be
and
Judge
under
Dredd.
the law, there's a very compressed timeline. In evaluating this, I came to the conclusion that I could not, unfortunately or fortunately, wait for the United States Supreme Court to make a decision. The Maine law required me to issue that decision, which I did.
The Maine law, we'll get into what she just said before in the SCOTUS here in a second, that dismantles a lot of this stuff. But what
I like she's just cherry picking what
smile
sounds
because
nice.
we were #1 in voter turnout per capita in 2022. We were really proud of that.
Because 100 people live there.
We have a really strong framework.
Trump's going to miss out on those 3 electoral
citizen participation.
It's like 1.5.
We have same-day voter registration. We have no excuse absentee voting up to 30 days prior to election day.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sad to inform you of white woman.
To register to vote, to cast your ballot, and know your ballot will be counted. And we're really proud of our national leadership in voter participation.
Which, by the way, you could project a movie theater on her forehead.
She will be the first to push Michelle Obama when she comes out to run.
I am the only person, and I will die on this hill. I know even Jason Whitlock came out with it. She is too much of a brat and too spoiled to run.
She's running, and she's going to win. If not this year, the next time.
I'm telling you, I just don't think she has the personality for it. But that'll be a side bet for Steve and I at this point, because I am not moving off this.
I'll put some flank steaks from.
Absolutely, dude. I'll put some
flank
steaks. I'll put some. I'll put some T-bones on it. No problem. Absolutely not. Because I don't believe she has it. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, white women, defenders of democracy, our last hope, apparently. But Fawaz, we're seeing this, and started off in Colorado, Rhode Island of all places, Michigan of all places said, no, you can't do any of this nonsense. Right. You can't take them off the ballot.
Even California, even Newsom was not really doing this. Yeah.
Gavin Newsom, because he's politically brilliant, which makes him dangerous, said, this is stupid. Don't do it. It's bad politics, because he sees it's just going to rocket Trump even higher up the polls.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, you're seeing people, Fawaz, pick and choose state and constitution stuff in order to justify their tyranny. And the reason is, like we talked about in the last segment, most people aren't smart enough to push back on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Everything she said was what Colorado said, using the 14th Amendment, Section 3, blah, blah, blah. Last I checked, according to the Constitution she's talking about, I forgot which code it is, Trump has to be either charged and
found guilty
of actual, it's a federal crime.
Correct.
An insurrection. It's a federal crime.
Doesn't matter.
He not only was he not found guilty, he wasn't even charged for it. So they're taking it's what they did with him when it came to the whole the tax thing, and I believe it was in Georgia. I don't know where the
Abrams.
The case is going. You take the legal theory, and you can fit whatever you want in it. And their interpretation, they're saying my interpretation that he was an insurrectionist, even though they're the ones colluding with big tech who literally removed a video of him saying, we wanted this to be peaceful. Go home. This is peaceful. He tweeted. So they took it out. And because people don't remember anything that happened beyond yesterday, nobody seen it. Everyone thinks that Trump's causes insurrection, was kicked out of Twitter. And so he had to be guilty of what you're accusing him for. And because he's not, I don't know how much in the polls it hurt him when they brought the whole case in Colorado. I did see that things kind of tightened up a little bit because he was way ahead, and then the Colorado thing happened. And then I think 58% of Americans, they polled, they said that they were in favor of Colorado doing what they did. And then yesterday, Colorado says, never mind, we're going to take back our decision. This isn't right. And then we get hit with Maine. I think that they're going to continue to hit him with each state because it's going to show to the average person that he was a criminal. It goes back to January 6th. Can't vote for this guy. He wasn't even eligible. Now, let's say he ends up fighting all of this. If I was Trump, I would flex. I would say, you know what? All these other states, y'all can keep Maine. I can win the election without Maine because he could. Who wants Maine? It's 3 points, whatever, right? That you get. I would flex. I'd be like, just give it to him. Let him have a head start. So
that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be great. And you know what? I want him.
It's just mini Canada anyway, so
Yeah.
you might as well just give it to him. I don't even care.
Dude,
Let him have it. It's fine.
Imagine the flex on Trump if he gets sworn in an orange jumpsuit minus Maine. I mean, the dude can come out and say, "Y'all tried. I'm still in."
Yep.
But here's the thing. There is one thing that I think, and I don't know if you guys feel about this, but I'm an immigrant. I came legally into this country because I can't swim across the Middle East. I came legally into this country in 1992. I've assimilated into this country. I actually think that the United States that we talked about, the United States, individual states, and the state constitution, I think it's a great idea. I just think that it needs to be more Catholic in its thinking, or else it's just going to fall through. But I think if Trump pulls this off, I don't know how he's going to do it, because I think state by state should have the education system, not have this one gigantic, this little office of education run by a white woman who has short hair, as we all know. That never pans out. But he did say that he wants to interject into the curriculum the love of this country. He wants people coming out of the classrooms proud of where they're from, proud of where they were born. Now, the only reason I say that is because I come from a patriarchal society. You get married, your wife gets pretty much adopted into the husband's family, and they live separate homes but one gigantic land. And that's how we grew up. And where I came from, my grandfather was the patriarch. My father got married, my mom moved in, and we all lived under the patriarch. So we have the high patriarch, which is my grandfather, and then you have your own domestic patriarch, which was my dad. You're going to have people within that patriarch, people within that tribe that are going to be bad people. They're going to do horrible things. You don't throw the entire family, you don't throw the entire tribe out because of one person. America has had a certain history before. We all know that. The whole world has had a certain history before. We're talking about fallen men. To teach young people to hate where they're from, there's only one solution. Either you accept that your family had history, and then you accept that, and then you become a better person and make your family, make this country better, or you just get up and leave the family because you're not proud of what the family was. And I think that Trump trying to interject the idea of an education. I don't know how he wants to do it. I think it should be state by state, and I think states should teach their own state history. I don't want to go to the Capitol for me to learn the history of Kentucky. I think it should be done in classrooms. If I'm going to send my kids into a public school without fear of them being indoctrinated, I think they should learn about the history of Kentucky, because we are our own country, our own state, like Steve always says. But there is one thing that I do applaud Trump for, is that he knows how to fight the culture games. And I think you've got a lot of people that are literally being brainwashed into thinking that this country is the worst country in the history of humanity. When in all reality, it has its flaws, but also had a lot of great things that it's done. And I think those things need to be highlighted among this new generation that's coming up. So he's got good ideas. He's got, he's got good ways of. Do I believe him if he's going to come in here and like a bull in a China shop and wreck the deep state? No, he's got no power to do that. But if we're going to take Trump at face value, he's one heck of an entertaining person to watch. And there are certain things that he did in his first 4 years that I would applaud, but there's also certain things that he did that I would say were horrible. But if he could take another crack at the White House, only to see those blue-haired, middle-aged, women and pitbull-infested, skinny jean men walking around, scream at the sky again, sign me up.
Yeah, that's all very well put, Claus. Thank you for that. And I mean, it's true. Every single one of those. And I mean, I'm even more, I think I've been hanging out with Steve too long. I think this public school system should be abolished. Tax credit should be granted at the state level for pods, for homeschool pods and communities.
Or to the parents. Give it to the parents.
That's exactly. I mean, take that money and just throw it right to the, at the local level. Encourage pods, schools. The old traditional, we had the old traditional one schoolhouse, right?
Yeah, the church,
community.
Right?
Yeah. Might as well bring that back.
Yeah.
Catholics. Catholic education, so forth. I think all that stuff would be great as well. But you're right, because all that stuff needs to be changed. All of it needs to change at every level. And the fact of the matter is, we're seeing all of this stuff in such a way that really just screams out. And the thing is, we've talked about it too, and everybody's talking about it. Civil war is just kind of like on everybody's back burner, Steve. And it almost has become the hip thing to say right now, to kind of throw your thoughts within the context of civil war. And I think it's more of a buzzword at this point than an actual reality or an actual move or movement.
Yeah, no one's ready for that one. States aren't even ready for that too, because they get federal money. So they would, what state doesn't get, how many times you see Louisiana when Jindal was the governor and they would do something good, all of a sudden they got federal money. I mean, DeSantis, he gets federal money. They all get money somehow. So it's going to be hard for them to get off the federal teat in a sense. One thing that Fawaz said was good. It was, he said a lot, not saying that he only said one thing good, but
yeah, he did.
When he said about people hating the country, some people will literally tell me that but it's not people, it's the government. You can hate, you can dislike how your government is, and
kind of should.
Especially,
kind of should. You don't hate your government enough.
It was on the first day of Christmas. Our government gave to us. Oh, Biden bombed Iraq. I mean,
more tax dollars, right?
How many people was watching that? And I remember seeing. I didn't know this happened. I had to look it up. And
bomb quota.
Back was George Washington across Potomac. Everyone loves that. You see the painting. They did that on Christmas Day. I mean, it was the guys that we were fighting. They were like, "We're taking Christmas off." And no, our side, like, screw it, forget Christmas. We'll just go at it. Contrast that with World War One, the movie of the ceasefire. Think that happened? You know, that's our land. Biden bombs just random people in Iraq on Christmas Day. That was his Christmas gift to the people. So you can dislike your government. Probably, like I said, should. There ain't nobody going to say, "Oh yeah, that's my guy doing it." Don't worry, Trump did it too. It was a great video I just posted from Judge Knapp. He did an interview with a guy saying, "Why do presidents kill?" And it goes into kind of like I can't remember who he quoted, but he said it was like a right, not RITE, for them to just pretty much solidify, "Hey, I'm here, and someone's got to die." Mm-hmm. Clinton, for example, he was a draft dodger. That was the main thing that they were going after him, being a draft dodger. He had to go out and bomb a pharmaceutical guy and keep the war going on over there. He had to show that he was a tough guy. Pappy Bush, after Reagan, they called him a wimp. So he had to go kill some people. He had to do it. Obama, I mean, more drone bomb deaths than anybody put together. And he was the Nobel Peace Prize winner. Trump.
What was Hillary Clinton's famous line?
Because it was a Tuesday. I mean, there was somebody I can't remember who it was in Iran, and they were going to lunch, and he authorized a bombing. Remember, we joked about it a couple months ago. One of his responses was just bombing. The guy was going, "Wait, hold on. That's a terrible idea." Biden, bomb. Lindsey, he wants to bomb people. He's not even president. He can't wait. Imagine that guy getting the keys. Half the place would be nuked.
Don't forget Hillary Clinton's famous remark after Libya. We saw he died.
And Hill Dog after Slick Willie got exonerated by the Congress.
Yep, absolutely. And I think Steve is frozen. Either Steve is frozen or I'm frozen.
I don't know. You can hear me?
We can hear you still. So
yeah, you're good now. You're good now.
You're doing fine, buddy.
Okay.
Just keep talking. You're good.
So, anyways, somebody asked about, I can't remember who it was. I saw it in the, I think it was Laura. Oh, yeah. When is SCOTUS going to settle the ballot issue? Well, they're supposed to meet on the 5th. That's when they get together to kind of like the Knights of the Round Table. The Knights of the unelected judges, rulers get together and sit there and figure out what they're going to rule on the upcoming year. So they're going to probably go after this, and they'll probably they're going to have to do it quick because Iowa's very soon. 14 days, 13, 14, 15, carry the two, do the Obama math. And then on top of that, obviously the election's coming up in November, so they got to hurry that one up. And and what I was joking with when we were playing the Karen, so no one wants to do, state, we go Constitution, state Constitution, federal Constitution. There is something called the Supremacy Clause, which I hate because everyone uses that to conjure to just to beat down the state constitutions, especially on 2A, 1A. No one really cares about 3, 4, and 5A. But for those, that is Supremacy Clause.
Those are destroyed by the Patriot Act anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but the 14th. I mean, we talked about last week. Wasn't even technically brought up by the states. That's purely a federal amendment. No state has the authority to interpret that however what they want. It has to be that one right there is a uniform one. So what is going to happen is SCOTUS has got to go through. So this is how it's going to be. Colorado, Maine, Georgia, wherever, you can't say this means this here, this means this here. Now in the state constitution, you have state ones on guns, speech. Remember back in the day, California had San Francisco had profanity banned. That was decades ago. So, I mean, imagine a 1A absolutist going, well, you can't do that. Well, that's a local thing, a local ordinance. I think California had porn banned back in the day too, and it's Slick Willie that said that was a free speech thing. So he actually went around it to make it a blanket size thing. But yeah, the 14th. If someone brings up the 14th, SCOTUS is going to have to rule. They probably will say this is what it is, just like how you talked about before. But he has to be charged. He has to be this, and that's done because that literally is a blanket. The state constitutions don't have their 14th. There is no 14th, and I haven't read them all, but it literally takes me 3 seconds to find one, and then you can read it. There's no 14th in any of your state constitution. So this will be thrown out. It's just political points for there. It's the lady that did it, she's run before and lost. So if you see anything done by a politician, statutes, think there's always an incentive for them to do anything. She's scoring political points for something down the road. Of course, she'll probably run for governor. Maybe she's waiting for Obama to come in and run for office so she could be Michelle's shoe wearer, something, or collector, whatever. But there's always an angle for it. She did this on her own. That just does not come up from a main vote.
The way they like it.
Yeah, there wasn't like a main vote. The governor didn't say anything. She did this because she woke up, had a bagel, and decided, you know what, I'm taking Trump off.
The whitest thing you could have, do a bagel.
I don't know what they eat for breakfast.
Spicy mayo on it, probably too.
Maybe a lobster bagel.
Starbucks, right?
It's with her Starbucks, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and she overpaid for both of them. No, it was an avocado bagel.
Mary Kay makeup on, yeah. Got to get the Mary Kay makeup going.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's all valid points. And the fact is, once again, most people are too busy. It's dialed down into the 30-second Fox News or MSNBC news bite. Plus,
no, do you guys think that there's a possibility that they're going to continue to push this, so that when SCOTUS says shuts it down, rightfully so, shuts it down, it could be 6-3, because the other three are going to go with the Democrats no matter what. And that's what SCOTUS becomes. Not the law, it's what party we're in. Mm-hmm. And then if Trump does pull it off, now they're going to say he was never meant to be president to begin with. So now you're starting the whole he's not my president.
Oh yeah.
From the very
whole narrative is set. They would actually prefer SCOTUS strike it down. They want them to, because that gives them so much narrative fuel for the next 4 years about illegitimacy and resistance and all this other stuff, because they get away with it. They can resist, they can break the law. They've been doing it, for years with California and either with the immigration or with marijuana or whatever the case may be. They're great at openly defying the feds. So they want this to happen. They want it, especially since it's on the 5th. Let's say they rule on the 5th, right on the eve of the Epiphany. Like we can't really say what it is, but that time they'll say like, oh, Trump's judges, because he put 3 of them on there, ruled in favor on the eve of the worst day in the history of these United. It already writes itself.
Well, they might not rule on the 5th. They get together to talk about what they're going to talk about.
I'm just saying if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is such a slam dunk. They could on the 5th say this is easy. Just get rid of this. Clarence Thomas write something. It's over.
I mean, I'm not questioning Steve. I don't think they have any kind of speed or veracity ever. SCOTUS is not a break open glass emergency thing. They don't do that. They never have. They never will. But the fact is, I'll even leave it. They're meeting on the eve of the worst terrorist attack in the history of these United States, with the fate of the world and the balance and all this other kind of stuff, and setting it up that way.
The worst.
That's where democracy died. So now we have to kill democracy to resurrect democracy.
It's died like 7 times, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The great Bush line. We got to stop democracy to save democracy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Exactly there. It looks like we got 2 more stories left, Steve.
Well, I got here. This is your boy talking about.
You might be considering Nikki Haley as a vice president. I want you to answer that. What are you considering her? And second of all, what do you want the American people to know about her record on the border, on taxes, on spending, and on entitlements?
Terrible.
Well, Nikki, I know very well. And I actually got along with her very well, and she wasn't going to run. She said I was a great president, and she would not run as long as I ran. And, that's famous. That's documented with her statements. It's on about 15 tapes and, broadcast all over the place. And then one day she decided to run. So, I thought that was somewhat disloyal. Not nearly as disloyal as Ron DeSanctimonious, who I got elected. And then he, ran. So that was, and he's crashed and burned. And, she's way behind. She's like 50, 60 points behind me. But if she goes up 1 point, they say she surges. In the last poll, I went up 7 points to almost 70. And which is hard because I have very little points to go up. They've been used, right? They've been taken already. But I went up 7 points. She went up 3 points, and he went down a couple of points. But because she went up 3 points and he went down, they said she surged, that Nikki Haley surged. But she didn't surge against me. She surged against Ron. But the point is that, look, I know her very well. I actually got along with her very well. As you know, she left ceremony at the White House, the Oval Office. It was very nice. She said terrific things about me. She said he's a great president. And then she decided out of nowhere to run. So I was a little bit surprised at that, but that's a politician. No, I'm not considering anybody at this time, Jen. Look, I want to win. And one thing I will say, and I've watched this for a long time, the vice president has virtually no impact. You could go back all throughout history. Whoever the choice of vice president is has virtually no impact as to who is going to get a nomination or get elected. It's an amazing thing, actually.
You just say no impact on an election. Okay, yeah. No, it's supposed to have no impact for anything.
True.
Except besides being the 51st vote if there's a break.
Which, we're seeing that with Kamala right now. The fact of the matter is. But we've all on this panel have been screaming that this is coming. This is absolutely coming. There's a good friend of mine named Magdalene Rose. She's a political correspondent. She's talked about the fact that there's been money lined up behind Nikki Haley since she left the governorship. They've been pooling money behind her for this run. She is the selected candidate, right? The establishment always has. It was Jeb, and he floundered in 2016. He just got steamrolled, but there was a lot of money behind him. And there's just tons of money and tons of whatever. And Trump is still haunted by the female vote and the suburban vote. And he's being floated the line that Nikki Haley does well in the suburbs. Nikki Haley does well to the suburban white women who absolutely despise you. And that could be the great balancing of the ticket and blah, blah, blah. Even though you got Tucker who said if he puts Nikki on the ticket, he's not going to endorse it. He's going to actually work against that ticket. So it's pretty interesting to see how divided everybody is on that supposedly and correctly. John Adams said, "I'm everything and I'm nothing," because he's right. The only person that did that was Dick Cheney when he was pretty much president, and George Bush kind of was sitting along for the ride. But yeah, the idea. Anybody who has an IQ above lukewarm soup sees that this is kind of being put together, right? They're just being smashed together and being like, just work, right? Just you two work now, and that looks like it's. I don't know, Fawaz, am I wrong?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's
correct
answer.
answer.
It's definitely possible because that's what we saw with the Democrats. We saw Biden and what's her name, Harris. She was going after him at the debates. You remember?
Yep.
And it was just the perfect match. But when it's all said and done, one that benefits them, it's a perfect match. But it's all war and game here. But I think picking Nikki Haley as vice president. Here's the thing: Vivek's been going after her as she's she's your typical rhino, and she's a warmonger and all that stuff. And so if Trump does end up picking her, I think he might lose some of his base. But I think that where he will recover is the fact he'll go say, listen, it's me or Nikki or it's Biden. Take a pick. And then he'll just get his base back in that route. I don't think that, honestly, I don't think Nikki Haley is the right person because, again, when I was looking at the polls and I try to look at them once a week. They don't mean anything, but they're fun. They're fun to look at. And you have to look at the margin of error to try to figure out the average and all the other stuff. But Trump is actually gaining support amongst married suburban women. He's actually gaining. He gained a little support. I think the last time they polled it, which was about 2 weeks ago that I saw. And the main reason is because of all the crime that's happening, that's going into, like Eminem says. Remember, he said, now that it's happening in middle America, now we want to worry about crime. So it's this. So I think the fact that he's gaining, I don't know for some fact that he might need Nikki Haley for as a political game here. We're looking for an electoral victory, not so much a popular one. If he end up, I've said this before, if he picks Senator Johnson for example, out of Wisconsin. They typically elect their own. If Senator Johnson can hand him Wisconsin, now it is electorally a 2-state victory. Arizona, Georgia. That's all you would need to win. And you can throw Maine in there if you want to. But
they can have it. Just little Canada.
You can have Maine. Yeah, but that's what I would think. But I know for a fact that Trump is probably going to end up picking someone who's a minority because he's going to play that game. I heard Ben Carson is at top of that list. I heard what's his name, Brian McDaniels, the representative, the black.
I know you're talking about Donald something.
Donald,
Brian Donald or something. Donald Bryan or something like that. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, someone like him, I think, is on top of the ticket as well. From the people who are inside Trump's camp, who kind of throwing names out there, those two guys are up there mainly because they're two, I guess you would say, outsiders who've come into the system, just like Trump. And now it's going to be two outsiders going against it. Trump's been pushing this narrative. We're outsiders. Well, he's a politician now. We're outsiders going against a deep state. Ben Carson, a self-made millionaire, came out from poverty. He got a great story. Trump, a self-made billionaire who started with billions of dollars from his dad, now going against the deep state. So that could be the story. Picking Nikki Haley would be a disaster for him, I think, in this election.
Steve, your thoughts on your former amazing governor, Nikki Haley?
Well, like I said, I think
let's be real. Steve is all Haley 2024, so he hopes that he picks her.
Well, I think Nikki. I said it a couple months ago. I think Nikki will be it because he's looking for a moderate, and he's kind of moved to a quote moderate position on things, and she more. You saw that with all the people talking about we can't win on abortion and things like that. So he may be looking at that to grab the moderate position, probably, give a head fake to the base saying, hey, just bear with me. I'm doing this for, points or whatever to win. But I mean, she is definitely one of those who has been on record saying this is not a good strategy. We have to, pump the brakes on the pro-life stuff. So I can see him doing that. You got the women check off. You got politically mindset. He's had her in his camp before. So he knows her, as he said, he didn't trash her in the thing. So I would be shocked if it's not her. I would be more shocked if it's Ben. Now, could it be someone that he can control? Maybe he does pick a patsy that he can control. Vivek is literally the only thing Vivek hasn't done is just say, Mr. Trump, I want to be your puppy dog for the next 4 years. Please pick me. I will do whatever you want. You want me to cut the grass? I will cut the grass. You want me to do this? I'll get you a bagel. I'll get you a pizza. Whatever you want. Vivek wants the position. I bet that would. It's the only thing he's doing because the whole thing of I'm going to get off the ticket. Like, whatever, dude. It's brown nose. But I would, especially if Michelle runs for president, you have to go. He would have to do that to try to get a female base, moderate base, all that. So strategy wise, that's depends on if Michelle O decides to take up her crown this year or not. I know Rick is not liking that, but hey, I mean, there's something to that. There's no way they're putting Brandon out again.
I think they are.
I don't know.
I don't think Joe Biden will leave.
I was feeling for that for a while.
I don't think Joe Biden will leave. I don't think you got under it. That's the only reason she stayed with creepy old Joe is because she wanted that position. Y'all don't underestimate the first lady vibe. She's not. They will literally have to.
What happened to Fetterman? Right? Same thing with Fetterman. It's his wife that wanted the position more than he did.
Biden was picked for VP because of his relationship with Israel. Obama did not have a good relationship with Bibi. And Biden and Bibi are like that. That's why he's had the most, I think, $10 million from AFTA given to him. He loves Israel. He's a right-wing Democrat in the Warhawk sense. I mean, you've got genocide happening right now to the point of it's some sick stuff going on right now. I mean, literally, Bibi comes out with his 3 points, and that's what the Ritter video is. We don't have to play it or not. Just go to Scott Ritter on Twitter, and you can see the videos he's putting up. I mean, they're literally aiming for kids. They're the most of the plate. The 2 Catholics that getting killed or got killed. The Pope comes out, calls this that's terrorist attack, and you don't hear a peep from Catholic journalists all over. They're targeting, and what Brandon is doing is literally nothing. I mean they are friends. So I mean the pro-Israel government is going to keep him in as much as possible. And if they run the ship like Big Pharma does, then the Israeli the Zionists will keep him in somehow. But I mean, I don't know how Michelle is on that. I think Michelle is more Israel. I think she's very Israel friendly. I mean, as you watch that documentary, I didn't watch it, but I saw some cliff notes on it. She's more rules for radically than Obama was. She knows the game plan better than he did. He was kind of like a bumbling fool on because we all joked he needs the teleprompter to talk. She doesn't, so she can play a chameleon in many different ways. Put it in an accent, act like she's for the black people, act like she's for the white people. Make up anything she wants. She is almost like a perfect one for that. But I mean, but if you said if he doesn't leave, there's your insurrection. But they're not going to call that.
Yeah, I don't think Jill will allow it. I don't think Jill will let. She does not want to be. She wants to be there, and I think that's.
You know what Nikki needs to do? She needs to be on the calendar.
Oh yeah. She's on the conservative calendar all day, baby, all day.
Immorality is okay when we do it.
Yeah.
Listen, this would be the last thing we talk about. We got to stop conflating conservatism with Christianity.
Please.
And that's the bottom line. The two do not exist within the same realm. All right, especially in the post-Trump era. All right, because we've had all barstool conservative, right? That's not a Christian. You're socially liberal, fiscally conservative is not a Christian, right? We are just a small part of their tent, and they want their tent to be as giant as possible. First of all, the calendar's pathetic because they couldn't even get 12 women to be on it. They had to have like 3 girls on it twice. Secondly, it doesn't matter how much they have on or don't. They are prostituting themselves for other men to look at. And that's the simple thing. They're on there for that reason. And listen, we don't live in a Catholic monarchy. St. King Louis IX is not running things, so we have to operate under the things that we exist. Does anybody on this panel have to like it? No. But is it a fact of life within the movement that you exist in? These are the same people who are putting this calendar out that said you needed to dump abortion 3 months ago after the midterms. So it's the fact that these are the people, your supposed thought leaders, and these are the people that were, libertarian or liberal in 2016, and now they're all of a sudden conservative because Trump was in office and all that. That it's the YouTube effect on conservatism. People who rise to start the Twitter X YouTube effect, they rise to stardom because they're somewhat attractive and they say the right combination of keywords that get them looks and views. Because Ashley St. Clair or whatever her name is not You ever heard her talk? She ain't no she's no political genius. And all these other women, and I'm not, Josie the libertarian, is she really the person that you want representing yourself in a Christian movement? I've heard her talk. She's a libertarian through and through, who's all about, people want to have porn and all this other kind of stuff. Let them. So those are my thoughts
that's
on it.
libertarian. As long as it's two consenting adults, who cares?
Yeah,
that's what she said.
So that's my thoughts on the calendar. I don't know if anybody.
Well, look at Fox News, just for example. How many people love Fox for years before anybody said, "Let's get rid of Fox now"? What did they have on their shows?
Attractive blondes.
Attractive blondes with skirts up to their,
Mike Church calls it the uniform because they have the shoulderless strapless shirt.
Yeah.
The skirt that goes right to the knee, so it's not offensive, but it's not really modest. And they're all like 20 to 25 years old, and
Yep.
they're like Trump's type, pretty much.
Yeah, it's eye candy talking to you about what you want to hear. You're thinking it's one dude in a suit, and he's surrounded by four that just have different hair colors and just different. It's like my grandma when she bought Christmas presents for us. It's the one sweater or shirt, and she got eight different colors of it.
You get
they got the same dress, just different colors.
You mind if I say something about this calendar?
Jump in, please. It's just Steve and I right now. Jump in.
So here's my biggest problem with this. Now, number one, I think your average conservative guy. I think conservatism and Catholicism can go hand in hand if we're talking about conserving morality according to the 2,000 years of the tradition of the church. There is no conservatism in Protestantism because morality is different. One, Hope Church across the street allows contraception, the other one doesn't. Like, there's no actual objective understanding because there's no papacy, there's no unity. So now here's my biggest problem. Who are the conservatives in this country? Majority of them are going to be your dads who were born in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, who are now boomers, right? They're your beer belly conservatives who, because the left has moved so left that if you took these guys back in the 70s and 80s, they would just be Democrats. That's what conservatives is nowadays. It's just 1980s, 1990s Democrats, because the left has moved, the needle so far that if you just stand, if you're moderate now, you're conservative. So you have this 20-something-year-old swimmer, Gaines, I think it's her name is Riley Gaines, who walks around wearing yoga pants all day, anyways, which is that's very conservative. Now this person is in a bikini, right? On the front cover. Who are you selling this to other than married men? Who they're gonna buy this and hang this on their their wives and their daughters to see? Like, more, you have softcore porn in your as a calendar in your kitchen, and your audience is but look at how they did it. Ultra right, one with bikinis. That's how they used to sell beer.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the guys that they're trying to get, because Mulvaney ruined Bud Light. And what was Bud Light commercials at that time? Bikinis.
I Love Twins. Remember the Twins commercial?
That's exactly what it was. That's what they're trying to. They're going after. It's the same thing with OnlyFans. And there was this girl on the whatever podcast, and sometimes I'll catch some of these clips, and she said that the reason why OnlyFans exists is because men are the primary viewers and supporters of it. And people were going after her, saying that was a dumb argument. No, she's absolutely right.
Perfect.
You can have as much supply as you want. If there's no demand for it, the supply dies. But because men nowadays are not actually conservative, they're just effeminate, who don't mind having, a 21-year-old swimmer, in a bikini, barely have any clothes on, in their kitchen with their wives around. There's no morality. So that's my whole problem is if you had actual men who had interior discipline, who were strong, who had value and who had understood what morality was like, none of these things would exist because we would shut it down just like that.
Yep. Last thing is, and then we'll get to our end of the year Saints and Sinners. All the men on social media who are making fun of anybody pushing back against it, you're the problem. And this is, the fact this is not softcore porn. I think you need to take a moment to realize that your brain has been so compromised by modernity and the porn that is out there that you're questioning that. Well, this is softcore porn. Oh, that's ridiculous. Blah blah blah. You're a loser. Do. Fine, that's whatever. Just understand that you need to reevaluate what your threshold is for decency and all of that. Call me a FUD, call me whatever, but that's in the end, that is actually, you can't return to those traditional values or whatever that kind of stuff is without that. All right. So we got Saint of the Week, Cry Room, and if you'd like, you can throw in your 2024 predictions. So Fwaz, you're up first.
Thank you. So Saints of the Week are going to be all of those Nigerian Christians that went to Mass on Christmas knowing that there was threat, but they still went to go worship, and then they got killed for it. What was it? I think 158 died, something like that. I think there was a large number that were martyred for their faith. So I don't know if this fits the three conditions of a martyrdom. I hope it does, because we want more martyrs, more people to die for their faith across the world. So those are my Saints of the Week. My Cry Room of the Week is going to be the women and all those people supporting this calendar. That's what I came in with, and it was just nice that we talked about at the end. My 2024 prediction. Buy as much protection as you can. Learn how to grow your own food, because it's going to be one hell of a year.
Yep, that's great. That's a great prediction.
Stay in the state of grace and grow in holiness, because at the end, that's all that matters.
Amen. And when he says get protection and stuff, thearmedcatholic.com. Steve.
See Rick for that.
Shameless plug, but for real. Steve, your thoughts?
I have to come up with a new Saint one, because Fawaz graciously took over. That one was an easy one. I'll go with the Cry Room. I'm going to put all the sky is falling people in. How many people are just living off every word either the Holy Father says or something negative that goes around and just pushes it out there. But they're never consistent. And if there's someone says something good, they never put out the good, true, beautiful. It's always the doom and gloom. The sky is falling every time. And as the Matrix at the end of it says, we are still here. I had to deal with that here. There was a bulletin post at a parish that nobody even knew of. And some doom and gloomers got together and put it out. And guess what happened? One got canceled. They had it once a month, a TLM, once a month. Another parish ended up they got canceled. Not exactly. They got moved. It's a hideous, ugly little church in Boone. But they got moved to a beautiful chapel in Blowing Rock. Old mission. It's really gorgeous. Thanks be to God, they're going to open that door and they get people in. They only had about 25 people show up for that mass. I don't know why they don't recruit more. But someone's like, oh, wow, look what happened. That I think that was an upgrade. The rest of the area, nothing happened. Nothing changed. We were supposed to get canceled twice, according to the doom and gloomers. Nothing happened. The ones that are just like the whole thing with the statue down there in Argentina. 100 years ago, nobody would ever heard about lightning in another country, continent. And we got people out there making stuff that lived in thousands of miles away, that they know the will of God and know what God's thinking with, oh, this lightning bulb means this, or just like the Vatican when Benedict left. Do we not believe that that God is in charge? Again, if he wants to take out a pope, he doesn't need to do something with a lightning bolt that just somehow magically just takes out the halo. And if that even happened, and the keys, there's nothing else, no remnant, no nothing, no searing, no anything else. It just takes out. But that's what happened. And believe me, this is the only thing that God's just, I tell you what happened. And believe me, it's about the Pope. And you got to be upset. And you got to get, stuff like that. It's Catholic distraction, Catholic porn, in a sense. Get your eyes off what you're supposed to be doing, and you can tweet about it to hear the kingdom come, and you don't get to play with your kids, you don't get to read, you don't pray, you just get mad, you get angry, and built up anxiety, and that doesn't, I don't know where the virtue is in that. But anyways, it gets you clicks, and a ton of them. So, and all those, everyone that does that, there's a cry room. It's an easy, crowded room for that. Saint of the Weeks, all you people out there that are trying to build some joy, saying Merry Christmas to people around for this time of the year when everyone else has already moved on to New Year's, keeping your tree going, being that neighbor that Enoch showed on this video, going up and just shaking his head, or whatever you can do to spread the joy and Christmas cheer to everyone else, and staying positive, because prediction for next year is you might not know reality next year. I think the AI reality is going to come in and really hit hard with the deep fake videos. What is it? I mean, how many of us, I know what Fawaz and I on our threads was a group of guys, and I made a comment back to one priest saying, I don't know. That looks like it could be a deep fake. We have no clue, because the thread had no source of where the video came from. And you've seen, everyone has seen, you can do anything you want with these videos anymore. Don't question everything. Use 10i. Do some due diligence. Don't just retweet something because you saw it online. Look it up. Make sure that there's an actual photo that is actually made, and not like Ben Shapiro with AI creation, or if the video is a legit video. You're gonna have your reality tested in 2024, and you're gonna see the globalist plans come up a little bit more and creep in. So stay true to the faith, and who cares after because we should be. I mean, we're Catholic. Who cares? In a sense, who cares? But you still fight.
Very good. So my cry room is Lauren Boebert for switching districts. Just shows that she doesn't really care about politics. She only cares about power. And that's in it. And I don't blame them. It's a comfy job. You make a lot of money, a lot of influence. But don't tell me it's for the people when you're switching districts. If you really cared about the people in your district, you'd stay and fight for it instead of running to an easier win. Easy enough. Saint of the Week are my panel. Steve, Fawaz, John. I've been with you guys for a couple years now, and we give each other a lot of nonsense and a lot of crap, but I am very honored every week to be able to be in the company of such good men that I'm just completely awestruck every time we get to do it. And so I know Steve's going to queue up some video right now. I think he's looking through. I can tell by his face he's looking for Greta or something. But I really do. I do appreciate John, Fawaz, and Steve for letting me hang out with them once a week. Great guys, my Saints of the Week, and I really, as much as a masculine man can to it, I love you guys a lot. So thank you guys for 2023 was a weird year for me, and the one consistent thing I did have was you guys and News from the Pew. So I really do appreciate all of that, and I appreciate everybody who watches the show as well. You guys, thank you for giving us your time. I know there's a lot of distractions, like Steve said, a lot of other channels out there to do that stuff. So thank you guys, every one of you guys, for hanging out with us every week as well. Stay safe out there this weekend, and don't cause any nonsense. Like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. We'll talk to you in the new year. God bless, and Viva Christmas.